It all started when Michael's wife, Schanda, discovered he had been cheating. She immediately kicked him out, and Michael didn't take it well. First, he threatened her. Then he filed for divorce. Then he changed his mind and decided he wanted her back. But Schanda was completely done with him. No matter what he tried, she refused to reconcile. Michael escalated. He threatened to release intimate videos they had made together. When that didn't work, he sent them to her family and friends. Then he allegedly broke into her home and threatened her with a gun. Still nothing. Living alone in an old Mississippi house, Michael came up with what he thought was a foolproof plan. He would hire 2 men to kidnap Schanda. Then he'd swoop in, rescue her, and become the hero. Surely she'd fall back in love with him after that, right? So he rented a van, bought handcuffs, and hired 2 accomplices. Weeks later, Schanda answered a knock at her door. 2 men dressed as delivery workers were standing outside. Within seconds, guns were drawn. She was handcuffed, forced into a van, and driven away. Inside, she was terrified. One of the kidnappers held a gun to her head while they sped down the road. But then pure luck changed everything. An off-duty deputy named Chad Martin happened to end up behind the van. The driver's nervous behavior caught his attention, so he tried to pull it over. Instead, the van fled. The chase didn't last long. The kidnappers turned onto a muddy road, got the van stuck, and panicked. They abandoned the vehicle and ran. When Deputy Martin opened the back doors, he found Schanda alive. The kidnapping was over. The kidnappers escaped into a nearby canal, or at least they tried to. Both men drowned. As investigators dug into the case, they quickly discovered that the van had been rented in Michael's name. Not ideal. But Michael wasn't finished making bad decisions. To make himself look innocent, he staged his own kidnapping. He tied himself up, took photos, and sent fake ransom messages, pretending they came from the kidnappers. There was just one problem. The kidnappers were already dead. Police immediately knew the messages were fake. A manhunt followed, and 4 days later, officers found Michael hiding in a seedy motel. But what really doomed him was something he never saw coming. The security cameras he'd installed in his Mississippi house automatically recorded whenever they detected sound. For months, those cameras had been quietly capturing conversations, including Michael discussing the kidnapping plot. Investigators recovered hundreds of hours of footage, much of it documenting his own involvement. Michael Handley was convicted and sentenced to 35 years in prison.